video, I'm going to be reviewing An Unapologetic Cookbook by Joshua Weissman. This might be the first cookbook review I do of a book that just came out, so yay. If you don't know Joshua Weissman, he's a popular YouTube chef who got famous for recreating a bunch of restaurant food. I remember first seeing him recreating the Popeyes chicken sandwich. That's where I remember really him picking up, because at the time the Popeyes chicken sandwich was really hyped, and then here he was telling you how to make it at home. He had worked at Uchiko in Austin, Texas, and then through the success of his YouTube channel, he decided to become a YouTuber permanently. I think the interesting about Joshua Weissman is he doesn't have any culinary training. He's all self-taught. He actually learned how to cook because he went through a giant diet change. As a kid, he was very overweight, and then through eating healthy and cooking for himself, he was able to lose a lot of weight, and that helped him learn how to cook and want to become a chef. Also at the age of 16, he started his own food blog called The Slim Palate, and 2 years later released his own cookbook called The Slim Palate Cookbook. I think Joshua Weissman is a really talented and passionate guy. I have learned some good tips from him, but sometimes he goes a little bit too over elaborate in his videos. I think that's what he's known for, is kind of taking something and making it a little extra and overcomplicated. It's more of something you would watch and appreciate, but not really want to do yourself at home. This book is really similar to the Binging with Babish cookbook. It's kind of a book of recipes done on his YouTube channel, so there's nothing here that you wouldn't be able to find on YouTube. I think if you're a fan of Joshua Weissman, you'll really enjoy this book. He's got a lot of his recipes and some blurbs about it, and it's all consolidated into one book. The book is laid out by first going over essential ingredients like jams, breads, sauces, stuff like that, and then later goes into stuff that he says is foundational, like breakfast, appetizers, fish, meat, pastas, soup, dessert, vegetables. The only thing I find is sometimes there's some recipes in this book that are a little too simple, which I find kind of ironic because he's kind of known for overcomplicating things. Like he's got 2 toast recipes, one for toast, butter, and jam, which I feel like is kind of wasteful to use one recipe slot just to say this is how you make toast, butter, and jam. I think the idea here is that he's kind of incorporating the beginning into one recipe that maybe you could... At the beginning, I liked how this book was laid out, where the beginning talks about, basic ingredients like jams, fermenting vegetables, sauces, and mayonnaise. It's just stuff that's very common and it's all kind of together. But then once you go throughout the book, it kind of falls apart in its theme and recipes. I think this book is mostly just based off his YouTube channel, because for breakfast, it goes from congee to eggs benedict to fried eggs. It just kind of seems all over the place. You go from Chinese to Americana to Mexican. I think if he kind of did something similar to the Food Lab and really focused on the skills he knew and techniques you could use in the kitchen to help you out as a home chef, I think it would have been a great book. I know Joshua is very talented and he knows a lot, but I think this book was really just a reflection of his YouTube channel. It wasn't anything I haven't seen before from Joshua Weissman. I think also that there's a few things I have issues with his fermented section. He just says use filtered water. It really should be non-chlorinated filtered water. If you're fermenting with city tap water, you're going to run into problems because they put chloramine in the water, which can inhibit the yeast to ferment. There's other things like avocado toast. Seems kind of wasteful because he wants you to cut garlic and then rub it on the toast, and then cut some tomato and rub it on the toast. I think maybe you can make a garlic tomato sauce instead and put that. I think the big thing about this book is it reflects his style. He's more of a to-doer kind of guy. The way he learned was just to cook food and just do it directly. He didn't go to culinary school. Where I say Kenji Lopez-Alt is very heavy on food science. We'll talk about why we do things, go on long elaborate paragraphs on the perfect way to do something because science says so. Whereas Joshua Weissman just says this is how you do it and go have fun, which I kind of appreciate. I also wish that on some of his fish recipes he had the temperature for the meat that would be needed. It just says to do it for time. I usually don't like cooking meat unless there's a temperature because it's way more consistent. I do like also how for the lobster he labels how to kill it properly by stabbing it in the head, but he doesn't give instructions on how to steam it. He just says use steamed lobster. I feel like he should at least have written a section on how to steam a lobster. Also, he consistently uses creme fraiche in this book. I don't know why he wouldn't have put it in the beginning, because creme fraiche is pretty simple to make, and I think it would be a really good part of his intro where he's just making basic things that you will need in the other recipes. Also, there's a part where he talks about how he learned how to grill fish using a rack. I really wish there was pictures there. I got really confused trying to figure out what he was doing with using a cooking rack and grilling a fish on it. He said it was a really great technique. I really wanted to learn how to do that technique, but I just couldn't figure it out from his descriptions. Also, if I'm comparing this to the Binging with Babish cookbook, I think the thing I liked about the Binging with Babish cookbook was that he gave kind of insights on his videos and maybe some history and the screw ups and just things that happened making those videos. That doesn't really come from this cookbook. The excerpts in this book mostly talk about why he likes a dish or something like that. I think there would have been something interesting on more more of like a history with the recipes, maybe some issues he had making the videos or something. I think that would have been a little more fun. Also, I figured out that the roasted chicken didn't pass the chicken breast test. He says to cook to 160, which I think is a little overdone. 145 to 155 I think is the perfect range. That's my preference. It's much more wet, but I think it's way more delicious. I do think his chicken breast recipe is great, where he sous vides it, and then when you want to eat it, you just pan fry it. I think that was a great choice. I made a sticky bun recipe, which I thought was really good, but I had a few issues with it. I thought at first the dough was a little too dry, so I had to add water, which he makes it seem like an optional step, but really it's necessary. He didn't put any salt in the sugar glaze, and a pinch of salt can really help the flavor. He asks for 5 tablespoons of melted butter in the sauce, when really it can just be 4.5, because you already used 3.5 tablespoons of butter for the bread. When I had to roll out the dough into a rectangle, he only had the length. It would have been really helpful in knowing the dimensions of the rolled out dough. So yeah, overall, I know there's some really good technique in here, but I think this book is a little sloppy. Some of the recipes in here are some of the best that I've cooked, but some of them are also the most boring or not that great. There's a lot of inconsistency in the quality of the recipes of this book. I know this is more about his YouTube channel and what he likes to eat, but I think Joshua could have written a better book if it was a little more well researched and had more of a vision and had more about teaching you how to become a better home chef. Techniques that he's learned that he might want to teach you. I think there's some really standout recipes like the Hokkaido milk buns, but there's also some things that just kind of fell off for me. Anyway, I'm giving this book a 6 out of 10. Sorry, Joshua. If you want to come fight me, meet me in the Central Market parking lot and we'll duke it out.